Hey, we're so glad that you could join us here on our podcast at Ashland Christian Fellowship. You will notice different voices from gifted men and women as we discuss relevant and encouraging topics. And don't forget to subscribe either to our YouTube channel or Spotify. We hope you enjoy today's topic and that the Lord speaks to you. God bless.
Well, hey, ACF, I am back as usual with Pastor Mark and Heather. So glad for this podcast team, and I know you guys have been enjoying it, and I truly enjoy it too. Being with you guys is quite a treat. And we have Chris manning the cameras today. Chris is one of our podcasters on our team. Thank you for that, Chris. Pastor Brett's taking a break today. But today we're tackling the topic of Advent, and this is going to be an exciting talk. I'm super excited for it. I don't know much about Advent or the liturgical calendar, but I do love this season, and it is a special season as we remember the birth of Christ. And kind of our focus for the podcast today was remembering Advent in the midst of COVID, or practicing Advent in COVID. And for those of you who don't know, Advent actually has these themes of darkness and light played out in it. You talk about the Jews were dwelling in darkness. I think it's Isaiah that says that. And then this great light comes forth, and that's Jesus. And that's kind of the heart of Advent, is moving from darkness to light. And so it kind of feels super appropriate for the midst of the season we're in with COVID, just the days being darker, especially spiritually darker on top of that. It just felt like an appropriate topic. And actually, it was Heather Timmons' topic to pick.
Yeah.
Way to go.
It is.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Way to pick a topic we know nothing about.
You stretched both of us. It's going to be your show today.
Well, and I'm not an expert on it, so I think we'll be discussing it and learning. I hope that gives people permission to also be learning along with us.
I was talking to Margie. We didn't know anything about it. I mean, half of our Christian life, we had never even heard of it.
Right.
I mean, we'd heard the phrase, but nobody ever did anything about it. So it's kind of, I'm sure there's other people like us.
Right.
I had to do the refresher, the crash course. I didn't read those articles you sent till this morning. So I crammed in 4 articles in 30 minutes.
It's a good thing you have a photographic memory, right?
I actually kind of do.
Do you really?
Yes.
Okay.
I see things in pictures.
I'm jealous of that.
Yeah. So, Heather, talk to us about Advent.
I actually think the pause was good, because Advent's about waiting.
It is. Whoa,
so we were waiting to see what you were going to say there.
That's why I paused. I remembered that part from the article.
That was good.
So let's actually start with this. Okay. Can you explain to us what Advent is? Because there are going to be some people who are listening and they're like, I've never heard of that. Or 2, I don't even know what the liturgical calendar is. You know?
Okay. So Advent means coming or arrival. That's the root of the word. And so the season of Advent is looking forward to the coming of the birth of Christ, or celebrating the birth of Christ.
You got to talk into your mic when you turn your head. You got to bring it with you. Or like turn like this.
Like this?
You can talk like this and still talk to me.
Or the second coming of Christ.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to celebrating his birth, but we're also still looking forward to when he finally returns. Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but come Lord Jesus.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
My heart has just cried out with that so much in the last couple of months.
And
because,
I hear that from a lot of people.
Yeah, there's just hard things in the context of a hard year.
Yeah.
3 years ago, it was about 3 days before Christmas, Mark's dad passed away.
Oh my.
And it was rough, because in the midst of just cleaning out his house, prepping for Christmas and the whirlwind of that, and it was hard. But Mark said the other day, he said, that happened in the context of a really good year.
Yeah.
All of the hard things that are happening this year are happening in the context of a challenging and difficult year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Our support systems that we have in place have been put on hold. We're not gathering with people. We don't have access to a lot of the things that feed our soul and help us to find encouragement.
Like toilet paper. It's hard to have access to toilet paper right now.
It is. I just saw a cartoon and it said, oh, look, a meteor. And then another person was running. I had to go get toilet paper.
So true.
That's where we're at.
Have you thought about wrapping them and giving them as gifts? Toilet paper.
I've seen a meme of that.
I so have I. All right, sorry. Keep
No,
going.
that's okay. So I think with Advent, we need that anticipation more than ever. We need to hang on to what's coming. I think the consideration of Mary and Joseph and their journey to Bethlehem. They weren't at home. They weren't in what was their familiar surroundings. And many of us, we're not going to be gathering with my parents for Christmas.
Yeah, it's going to be weird.
It's going to be weird. It's going to be different.
Yeah.
And yet many people have celebrated Christmases that have been different, right? Whether it's been in concentration camps, whether it was World War II, whether it was many things through history have been different on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So-
So when we talk about Advent has changed and morphed historically over the years, correct?
Well, the way
It
I understand
seems-
it, the ancient Christians used it as kind of a preparation for baptism.
Yeah, the Epiphany of the Magi,
Yeah,
they called
another
it.
40 days of fasting and preparing and afflicting your soul and giving up certain things. But then, as I understand it from reading the articles that you sent, thank you for those, by the way.
Yeah.
It kind of did morph into both looking back at the birth of Christ and looking ahead at the coming of Christ. And
Yeah.
one of the things Christians have learned over the centuries is that a routine or a cycle of the year and of the soul is good for us. It kind of gives us an ability to breathe spiritually.
Yeah.
With like we do with Easter, we always look forward to Easter and the preparation for Easter, and the same with Christmas. And I think Advent can be, for some people, a great system of just kind of preparing your mind and thinking about spiritual things, looking back while you also look ahead. It's really been good. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what I love about it is how the focus really, I think this in the Middle Ages is where it shifted to looking forward to the return of Christ.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've always viewed Advent as remembering the Christmas story,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
great, but it can't just be remembering the Christmas story. It's remembering the Christmas story. It's remembering what Christ has done. It's remembering that he's ascended, that he plans to return someday. That would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
a fuller picture of what Advent is probably about.
Right.
Right.
Well, and those people that are in the Christmas story are just prime pictures and examples of waiting.
Yeah.
And wanting and longing and
Yeah.
reading the Old Testament promises and prophecies
Yeah.
and saying, is it ever going to happen? And then to be able to actually see it happen. Well, we have the same thing. We can look back at the fulfillment of those prophecies
Yeah.
while we look ahead at the ones that haven't been fulfilled. And to me, that gives it power.
Yeah.
Where I can say he was faithful, he is faithful, he will be faithful.
So I almost wonder if it's fair to say Advent isn't so much about the waiting, which is what's emphasized, as it is about the expectation.
Right.
Because it is waiting, but it's waiting on a greater expectation. They were
Right.
waiting for the Messiah to come. Now that the Messiah has come, we're waiting for him to return again.
Right.
I think
Right.
in that there's earnest expectation.
Right.
Yeah, it's waiting with a purpose. You have a focus of your waiting.
Yeah.
It made me think about Hebrews 11 when you were talking about, and how by faith Abraham and Joseph and all of them, many of them did not see the fulfillment
No.
of the thing they were waiting for.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we wait with expectation,
We do.
knowing that it will be fulfilled, but we may not be alive to see that, right?
Right.
Jesus
Yeah.
will come back, but it may not be in our lifetime.
No.
But
I
it
hope
could
it
be.
is.
That doesn't
I hope
negate
it
the
is.
promise. Yeah, it very much
Right.
could be. And that's what
Right.
gives us the hope. That's where the power of hope comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
I liked one of the lines in one of those articles that you put that, what do you do when all is not calm and
Yeah.
all is not bright?
Yeah.
We sing that song, Holy
Yep.
Night. But if you're living in a time in your life or in your nation or in your family that it's not bright and it's
Right.
not calm, where are you going to go to find hope? And of course, we believe as believers that it's to the Scriptures and through
Yep.
the comfort of the Holy Spirit. And so waiting is not like waiting with hurry up, Jesus. It's
Yeah.
more of just calming and settling
Yeah.
and looking back while you look ahead and going,
Yeah.
okay, it's going to be all right. He's
Yeah.
still alive. He came. He's
Yeah.
coming. For me, it's just been powerful to think
Yeah.
about it and to meditate it and see how many things parallel in my particular story where certain routines in my week have become critical to my spiritual health.
Yeah.
In my year, the same thing. And I think in life of church, there are certain structures that we go through, seasons we go through. Man, Advent could be a great, powerful thing. And doing it
Right.
doesn't mean you're buying into all of the negativity that goes along with the liturgical calendar.
Yeah.
Or the high church stuff that maybe some people are kind of wanting to pull away from.
Yeah,
Right.
well, I think that's a fair point. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie. When you dive into some of these things and you look at the roots of it and where it came from and the affliction, and I was even in one of the articles was talking about it's almost like it's like sitting in mourning and waiting for like the joy to come. And
Well, yeah, it is.
and I get
Yeah.
that, and some of those other kind of branches of the faith, like Catholicism, the Anglican Church, maybe there is more of an emphasis on like the mourning and the suffering and the penitence side.
Right.
And And so that is hard. So talk to me about it, because it is hard, because we're Calvary Chapel people. Yeah, I mean, like, filled with the Spirit, hopefully, believe in grace. There's a lot of joy that marks the Calvary Chapel movement. I personally believe I see a lot of people that are walking in joy. So it's interesting when you read these things and you look at it and you go, I don't know, there's a tension there, but it's not to say that it's wrong.
No.
Right.
Well, my personal conviction is that those beautiful things are best seen in contrast with the ugly things. That in order to really understand the depth even of a photograph, you've got to have the darks that set out the lights.
The contrast.
The contrast.
Yes.
And so if you never look at the hard things, the difficult things, the mourning things, the waiting, longing things, then when the fulfillment and the joy and happiness comes, it's not as deep. It's not as meaningful. So it puts things kind of in balance, I guess, is what I say.
Creates perspective.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want somebody that's sad all the time. That's not being a Christian.
No.
I remember seeing a cartoon once where a guy's on the bus and he goes, "No, ma'am, I'm not a pastor. I just been sick for 2 weeks."
Oh, no.
You know, it's hilarious because the guy's just got the long
He's
face
miserable.
and you're looking so spiritual. Or,
Right.
You know, that's no fun. But also the guy that is always just like shallow but happy all the time. I mean,
Right.
come on. You kind of just want to say, come on, guy, you know, get real. There's balance. There's both in life.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, when you said that, I was thinking about how God created us with a whole range of emotions,
Yeah.
right? And even in the life of Jesus, we see joy and we see sorrow. We see that whole range of emotions.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think that Advent, it doesn't have to be a glorification of misery, but I think what it says
good way to say it.
is,
That's a good way of saying
right,
it.
because you don't want to celebrate that.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah, it
there
sure
are
did.
times when we are very low and when life is very hard, and there's a place for that. Like the good news penetrates even into that, right?
I love it.
So I think that
Yeah.
that's what Advent can do, is
Yeah.
it can provide an acknowledgement of sorrow and the hard things that are in our life with hope, with expectation that someday
Right.
all's going to be set right. But
Yeah.
right now, it's the tension.
It is a
It's-
tension, and
right.
I think it has to be understood under the light that the original idea of Advent was, going back to the Isaiah passage, that those who dwelled in darkness, a great light has shone.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
there is darkness, but Jesus is that great light, and that
Yes.
great light has shone. And so I do think it is good for us to pause and to reflect on the brokenness of our world, but only in the context of rejoicing in the light of Jesus. I think that's where it gets unhealthy, is when people just want to focus, because we've all met Christians that just want to focus on the brokenness of the world.
Right.
And you're like,
Yeah,
you're no fun.
Well, they get kind of
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah, how winsome is that?
Right.
That's certainly
Yeah, like, oh,
Right.
this-
Yeah, well-
the whole world is broken, it's all going to burn. You're like, but what about Jesus? You know, and I think
Yeah.
that's
Right.
actually the whole point of Advent is, what about Jesus?
Yeah.
Right.
And his coming.
Yeah. I did like one
Right.
of the quotes, though, in that article that you sent from Christianity Today. It says, from Dietrich Bonhoeffer, said, "The celebration of Advent is possible only to those who are troubled in soul, who know themselves to be poor and imperfect, and who look forward to something greater to come." To me,
Right.
that
Yeah.
just put it in really graphic ways, that it's both comforting and consoling at the same time. It
Yeah.
gives us solid perspective, like you said, but it also gives us something to weave into the darkness that is an element of elevation and hope.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like that Dietrich Bonhoeffer said that.
Yeah.
I don't know when he said that in his life.
I don't either. It might have been after he went through his imprisonment.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
I
Yeah.
mean, because he was walking through the time of Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
He was still trying to minister to Christians.
Yeah.
He was breaking the law.
he was really wrestling
He
with
really was.
how do I stand up against injustice and
Yes.
still be submissive? I mean, some of the conversations
Yes.
we've had, you know.
Side note, he actually
Yes.
helped try and assassinate Hitler.
He
Right.
did.
He was a
Yeah.
pacifist
Yeah.
who then tried to assassinate Hitler.
Yeah.
Because he realized my pacifism, what does that mean in the face of evil?
Yeah.
So
That could be
what-
another conversation
that
for
could be a
another
whole
day.
other
Yeah,
conversation.
I
Well,
would
you
love
know,
to explore it, though.
you're living in sin when your pastor's secretly plotting to have you assassinated. I feel like Hitler should have woken up at that point and been like, the pastor, like a well-known pastor of our community, is trying to have me assassinated. I should probably get right with God.
But I think Hitler didn't see any other authority
think
besides
no.
himself,
Yeah,
which
that's
was
a
the
different
problem.
You just think, though,
Right.
you know? Like
Yeah.
if you found out Francis Chan was plotting to have you assassinated, I would feel like there's things I could do better in my life. You
Right.
know, I would stop to think that maybe something was wrong.
Yeah.
But you have a godly conscience.
This is true. I have a godly conscience.
Hitler did not.
I do watch some of his videos, though, and get the idea that he wants to slap me. You know,
Francis Chan?
Francis Chan, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you sometimes? I mean, the guy's just like,
He's
"Come
very
on,
intense.
get with it!"
Yeah,
I just love Francis
I do
Chan.
too,
Yeah, I
man.
do
I
too.
do too.
Good.
Yeah.
I do too.
There
But
was
he
one
does
that-
have an energy.
He does, yeah. He did one video from Hong Kong where he's just really calling the church
Yeah.
to wake up.
Oh, yeah, I
and I'm
saw that
going,
one.
oh my word, man, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, side note,
So
Yeah.
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Love Francis Chan.
Me too.
So let's keep talking about Advent.
All right.
You know,
Okay.
we could talk about, you know, pastors attempting to assassinate people, or maybe pastors who have wanted to have people assassinated.
Or
Those are
people that have wanted to assassinate pastors.
This is true.
Yeah.
But you know, we can move on to Advent. That's okay. So we're talking about Advent. You might still be kind of confused, like because this is a broad topic, and we
Right.
kind of just dove straight into it.
We
We're like,
did, yeah.
What
Right.
is Advent? And we get into like all the theological stuff and the different denominations it's been a part of, and you're like, what does Advent look like in my life? So let's talk about it. What does it look like, modern day Christian, Calvary Chaplain, to practice the perspective of Advent during the Christmas season? I think that's a good question, worth exploring for us.
Right.
So what does that look like, guys? A modern day Christian, would you say practicing Advent? Is that the right way to say it? Remembering Advent? Is it a remembering thing?
I think you could say practicing.
Practicing
What do you think?
Advent.
Yeah, I think it's something you would participate in,
Oh, I
and
like
the
that.
degree to which you participate
Yeah.
could be different for everybody. Since we have no history in our family of it,
Right. Yeah.
to really see the rigidity of the daily, they have 26 days of Advent.
I think so.
So
Or the 40 days of fasting that originally came out of.
Yeah, but
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, specifically, they say Advent started like this year on the 29th of November,
Yes.
Yes.
and goes through
The 4 Sundays leading up to it.
and leads up to
Oh, right.
Christmas
And-
Day.
yes.
So I think that's where that 26 days comes in. But the idea of just having a schedule of things that you think about, you read. Our
Right.
kids used to have like an Advent calendar that you kind of pull the little tabs off, and you could look at the various things. And I guess they've got other ways you could do it. Some churches use the Advent wreath.
Yes.
With the 4 or 5 candles. Come on, brain. Yeah, that they light each
And that
week.
actually, where
Yeah.
that came from is a really cool story.
I actually haven't heard that story.
Tell the story.
Wait, did you not read the articles, Heather?
Is that the
sent us?
one about the guy that used the wagon wheel
The
to kind
orphanage?
of come? Oh, yeah, okay, okay.
He had all these orphanage kids, and he put together a wagon wheel with all the different candles on. They would burn one every day, and then they had 4 big white ones for the Sundays that they lit. And it was probably, think of kids that had nothing, it was dirt
Yeah.
poor.
Yeah.
It's probably
Yeah.
just a cool special way of them remembering the work of Jesus together. I thought that was so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
So that's the
But I'm-
backstory to the
Yeah.
candles.
I'm thinking back, if I would have wanted to do something with my kids, to have an intentional way
Right.
to bring Jesus into our daily routine,
Right.
weekly routine,
Yeah.
looking
Right.
forward to Christmas, because kids love Christmas.
Yes.
But what if we could bring the impact of Christmas 26 days earlier
Yeah.
Yeah.
and in a systematic, structured way? It could be a great teaching tool.
Well, and I
think
think
so,
the
too.
the goal behind Advent is heart preparation.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
would
why
agree.
I think it's
I would
actually
agree.
so good for the modern Christian
Yep.
today.
I would
Yes.
agree.
Because it's to prepare your heart for what really matters. So Heather, talk to us about that. Preparing your heart, practicing, participating in Advent. What does that look like for you and your family?
It's really varied in our family. In the beginning, when my kids were little, we had just the Advent calendar where you open the little windows. Do you want to show your Advent
I
calendar?
was waiting to surprise everyone with it.
Oh, sorry. So there's a surprise coming. That'll be really great and worth waiting for. So we would open the little windows and, well, the kids would, and look into that. More recently, I have one that has drawers, but it's really simple, and they use that. What we have done actually in more recent years is I have some electric candles, and I just light one of them. And oftentimes I'll just let it burn the whole. It doesn't really burn; it's electric.
was
But
gonna
just
say you
let
said
it go.
you lit it.
Well,
Turn
turn
it
it on.
Is that the proper use of that
Turn it on.
candle?
I don't like that one. But I just turn it on and let it glow. And then every Sunday, light another one.
That's cool.
And so it gives a visual of the light coming in, right? Because it's increasing light. You have darkness and then you have more lights lit up. So that's something we've done more recently, in part because it's really simple. It's
Yeah.
up on our bookshelf
Yeah.
and it's an automatic reminder.
Well, I think when your kids are older versus younger, like I remember being
It's
really
different.
young, and my parents had one, and it was really special. And you
Right.
it's a little ribbon you pulled, the book out of the sleeve and it popped out, and you would read the scriptures to the family.
That's the one I'm
was in
familiar
it.
with. Yes.
And then you would hang it on the tree.
Oh, now that I have
Yeah,
seen
they
that.
were designed to be ornaments too, and you'd hang it on the
That's
tree.
that's
and then
really
every
neat.
night we would pop one out and read it and
Yeah.
hang it on the tree. And as we got older and the kids weren't around as much, we've switched to something else. And my mom actually bought me one of these.
This
Yes.
is a
Dun,
surprise.
dun, dun, dun.
This
That's great.
is an advent calendar.
That is an advent calendar.
I feel like it's a pagan advent calendar because there's no scriptures in it, but there's
can put
pockets
scripture
for
in it.
chocolate. Check this out, guys. And I actually put chocolate in it for this morning. I was
Very
thinking of you
nice.
guys, and I loaded
So
with chocolate.
are there days like numbered on there?
Yeah,
How do
so
you
this
know
is
where
like
to start?
day 4.
Day 4.
So this
Yeah.
is day 2. And I got a milk chocolate here. The white chocolate one's mine, but so I can have a milk chocolate. 3's up here. Oh, there's another milk chocolate.
Do you like white
I
chocolate?
do like chocolate. There's
No,
another
wait a
white
minute.
chocolate.
So this calendar all became all about chocolate, not about
No, it's about Jesus. You know,
Where's Jesus
Yeah, I
in
know.
there?
Because
it's
I-
a Christmas tree with chocolate in
Because
it.
let me tell you, I'm doing like a non-sugar diet, so I'm afflicting my soul, and then I remember Jesus coming into it. And I think I hit an extra one 17 because I knew nobody would look in 17 today.
There's 2 in 17.
Oh, I actually loaded this thing with chocolate. I think there's one more in here. Oh my gosh, look at that.
Nice.
Yeah, there it is, guys.
Your kids are going to have so much fun.
So who
growing
wants a
up
dark
in your
chocolate?
house.
Dark chocolate?
I'll take a dark chocolate.
Mark, do you want dark chocolate? Do you want
Yeah,
milk chocolate? Do you
no,
want
I'll
white
take it
chocolate?
home to Margie. She likes dark.
Chris, what do you want?
Surprise me. Boop.
Milk chocolate. There it is. All right, guys.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so one other
Afflicting
thing
our souls.
that we haven't done as a family, but that I know other families have done, and I brought this in because this is actually our Sunday school nativity set part of it. And I've heard of families who will take Mary and Joseph and hide them around the house and lead them up to the Christmas tree with a baby Jesus under the Christmas tree on Christmas morning. So then the kids have to find Mary and Joseph, and you talk about the journey to Bethlehem. And I think that's really clever.
That is
So
clever.
that's a simple way.
But I'm lost. So you
Okay.
would put them where and then bring them
Oh.
out or let them search for them or?
Yes, you would set them like somewhere in the house. The kids would find them, and then you move them progressively closer to the Christmas tree.
That's
And have baby
awesome.
Jesus under the Christmas tree on Christmas morning.
That is so
So
awesome.
simple and cute. We
and then
didn't
the day
ever
after
do that.
Christmas, you take baby Jesus and you hide it, and to symbolize when Mary and Joseph lost him and they were panicked for 3 days to find him.
I think
The
you're blending
possibilities are
stories, but
endless.
yeah, that's really crazy.
That was so good.
But was it good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Does anyone else want to know?
I'm not going
I'm good.
to eat
I'm
on
good.
the camera.
Right.
Why
man.
not? Hey, it's podcast. People love it. It helps
Yeah.
us connect. These
Yeah.
are delicious Lindor chocolates. That's one of my favorite things about Christmas season other than Advent is Lindor chocolates come on sale.
I feel like we're sponsored by Lindor Chocolate right
We're not,
now.
but we should be because that would be awesome. I love Lindor.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Unwrapping. Yeah.
Good sound. Good
It's
sound.
a good sound.
So this morning early, I got up and I was just thinking about what we were going to do today. And I thought about the benefit for Christians, say, that are more, can I use the word mature? Because I don't have kids at home anymore.
Yeah.
So how can I engage in Advent this year? And I thought the part of it was the waiting, the reflecting, the thinking. But also, there's things you can do, and I from the articles you gave,
Right.
scriptures you can read,
Yes.
like on a schedule,
Yes.
that take you from the promises of the Old Testament to the actual Christmas story,
Yeah.
and then on into the the hope of or the return of Christ. And
Yeah.
man, you can just Google it, and I
Yeah.
did.
Yep.
Advent scriptures, and they just come up with all
Yeah.
kinds of different passages that you can read together.
Yeah.
You could read them in the morning, kind of a devotional pattern. Even the YouVersion Bible
Has
that I
Advent
use
devos.
have an
Yes.
Advent Devo.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
that
did one
you
last
can-
year.
Yeah, and you can just every single day read
Yep.
a passage, and it kind of even has like an application of that. And what's that? I think that could be a great discipline to
think so,
kind of
too.
layer in the midst of all the other stuff we do at Christmas. And this year's going to
Yeah.
be so different.
Yeah.
So
Right.
why not? Just kind of make our hearts lean into the
Yes.
Christmas story.
I mean, I can see
Yes.
on the YouVersion Bible, you can look at your completed plans, and I can look at mine last year, Making Space, the Advent plan.
Did you do it?
Yeah, the Advent devotion. It was called Making Space. It was actually good. And I
Yeah.
think things like that are
Yeah.
good
Yep.
for us because this is
Yep.
what I love about Advent. I don't think it's so much about how you practice it that matters as
Right.
it is about what you're practicing. It's making room
Right.
in your heart for the Lord. One of those articles I read, they really emphasize that. The idea of Advent is making space in my heart for the Lord to come in and really just celebrating Him and then remembering His future coming as well. So I think it's more about what you're doing. And here's the thing. You might say, well, I don't need an advent calendar, but I do need chocolate. Maybe you're thinking that. You're like, but I don't need an advent calendar to help me make space in my heart. Here's what I'd say. Our American culture is so busy, so consumer driven. I have found that if I don't have something that's, I hate saying ritualistic, but habitual, something I can practice.
I like the word habitual.
That I can put into practice,
Right.
I will not do it.
Yeah.
I'm full of good intentions. In fact, there's that old quote that says, the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
I'm full of good intentions.
Yeah.
And I always get to the end of it and I go, oh, I should have made more space for Christ. I should have made more time. I should have, because I have all these great ambitions, but they don't come about. But when I sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do an Advent devotional, or I'm going to do this with my family. I'm going to light the candles, or I'm going to have the calendar with the booklets.
Right.
It kind of gives you a sense of accountability.
Yes.
A structure that's going to help you truly make that ambition work and really make space in your heart for the Lord.
Well, I believe God meant it that way. I really think if you go all the way back, even to the story of creation, that God resting on the seventh day was a symbol of that structure that put him first.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that habitual weekly or daily structure, our flesh is going to take over, our culture is going to intrude, and there's just going to be a million excuses later why we didn't. But why not? Think it in advance, and to whatever degree we can, kind of make something intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. Besides, we get chocolate.
We get chocolate.
Right. It's true. I think the other thing that's important for people to remember is you could start anytime, right? If you didn't start on the 29th or you didn't start on December 1st opening doors, you can start anytime. If it's 2 weeks before Christmas or a week before Christmas, or if you miss a day, that's okay.
Yeah.
You can still come back and remember. You can still do a reading. You can still orient your heart towards Jesus. Because sometimes it's good to have those habits, but sometimes if we get out of our habit, we can feel like we failed, and we're so distracted by the habit that's meant to point us to Jesus that we lose track of Jesus. I struggle with that at times anyway. So I think, remember, you can step in at any point and orient your heart towards Jesus.
I love that. In fact, I decided, it's interesting you'd say that, because this morning I was thinking how I could participate, and should I, and did I want to?
Right.
And I thought, no, I really don't want to do like the YouVersion thing I did last year.
Right.
Well, what do I want to do this year? And I was talking with Margie about it, and we decided, what if we just every single Sunday, instead of lighting a candle, we look at the theme, which I understand is like the first week is the hope, the idea of the promise. The second week is preparation or waiting, longing.
Yeah.
And the third week is joy. And there's scriptures that I found. And so what we're intending to do is just, we missed last Sunday, but we're going to start this next Sunday just by taking time, just a few minutes to read the scripture and think about, the whole application of the Christian story. So for us, it's just kind of taking a little piece of the Advent and bringing it into our structure. But I think it's going to be beneficial.
Yeah. And like you said, you can start anywhere.
Yep.
Right.
The good news about if you did one that had chocolate in it too.
You could go back and catch up.
Exactly. That first day you get like 4 chocolates. Because
How do you keep yourself from opening them all up? I mean, you already went to the 17th and pulled out some. That doesn't seem right.
Well, see, the difference is when you're the one stocking the calendar, as long as you replace it and nobody knows, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
As long as there's a chocolate on the day it's to be opened.
I mean, it's also bad when you know which ones are in which. I mean, that's how my brain works too. I'm like, I know the dark chocolate's in this one, and
That's funny.
it is.
Do you have
it's
certain
bad. I need
kinds
to
that you
stop.
like better than most?
I mean, chocolate's great, but I do love dark chocolate. I love dark chocolate. Like dark chocolate is so good, and I like white chocolate.
I understand white chocolate's not really chocolate.
Right.
That's what I was told.
That's okay.
You can still like it.
Yeah, you can believe what you want to believe. It's fine.
Well, I feel like white chocolate is fake chocolate because I feel like it's not chocolate. It feels
There you
disappointing.
go.
I'm like, that's not chocolate.
Well, if that's what's truth to
But
you,
you
Heather.
can eat it.
True to you. True to you.
I don't tell you how to practice Advent.
Over
how
the
to eat
years,
your
I've had
chocolate.
people come to the church and they say, "How come your church doesn't do anything with the church calendar?" And I say, "Well, what are you talking about?" I say, "Well, why can't we don't do anything special for Palm Sunday.
Right.
We don't do anything special necessarily for the day of this Pentecost, coming of Pentecost. You don't do anything for Advent or Lent or any of that kind of stuff." And I say, "Well, we are not high church, and
Right.
we're
Yeah.
more relaxed, and we are just about studying the Scripture and going through it consistently. But as an individual, there's no reason why you can't bring some of that and borrow some of that. It's not a problem."
And by high church, you mean like the Catholic Church. You don't mean like Ashland Ashland High Church.
You
It's
mean
totally
like up
different
in the
sense.
not
Yeah.
elevation, but we're talking about, I guess high church is a phrase that I heard. I don't even know
Yeah.
what it means.
Isn't it? It's
really,
more
but
structure, right?
More structure, more
Yeah.
liturgy,
Right.
more.
Yes.
Yeah.
They also refer to like high days, high feasts.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
the High Church has special things like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So here's why I think it would be a good place for us, kind of taking it. As with anything, it's about the heart. And here's why I want to say it,
Right.
because we're only really commanded two different rites, I guess you would call them, traditions as Christians, and that is the baptism by full water immersion
Right.
and communion,
Right.
remembering the Lord. And so for us, biblically, that's all that's commanded.
Yeah.
And then, so what do we do with things like this? Well, Paul would say, hey, if you're going to observe a day, observe it to the Lord. If you're not
Yeah.
going to observe a day or a feast or a holiday, he actually
Do
talks
that
about
to
that.
the Lord, yeah.
Do that to
Right.
the Lord. Whatever you
Yeah.
do, make sure you're
Yeah.
doing it to the Lord. And I think that's where it's at. It's like the heart
Yeah,
thing.
I would agree.
Like I have believers and friends, and I've done it too, that have celebrated the Passover, not because we believe, as some Christians do, that we need to hold the
Right.
Jewish holidays, but more as, and I don't do it every year, but some years it's kind of fun to be like, hey, we have the capacity, we have some lamb meat. Let's
Yeah.
do like a little Passover celebration. Just remember
Yeah.
that Jesus has come. He's been our Passover lamb. And I think it's really about the
I
heart.
do
None
too.
of these things are commanded.
Right.
Right.
They're not, I guess you can't say they're inherently good in themselves. It really comes down to the reason for why you're doing it and what's
Right.
going on in your heart.
That's a good perspective.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Because a person could be very disciplined and go through all of the readings and do all of the scripture and light all of the candles and really have their heart unmoved.
Yeah.
And there's no benefit.
Or feeling like I
in that.
have to do it
Yeah.
to get some blessing from
Right.
God. It's not that
No, it's
No.
not that.
at all. And this is what I love about that, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, Heather, is there have been people who have come and said, why do you celebrate Christmas? Christmas is a pagan holiday. Don't you know it
I hear
originated
that
here?
every single year. What, have
Really?
you heard that?
I've heard people mention it. I just kind of dismiss it. I mean,
It's
really,
like,
right? Like, if I don't know, maybe it's just the Charles Dickens growing up or the Grinch. If you don't celebrate Christmas, like it's fine. Like if someone doesn't want to celebrate Christmas, that's fine.
I think
But
Heather just called you out for being the Grinch. If you
That's
I
don't
just
a
celebrate
kind of-
Christmas.
Grinch.
I just kind of dismiss it. To me, I'm like, if I want to celebrate Jesus, I'm going to celebrate Jesus. If
But
I want
here's
to
the
bless
point.
my family, I'll bless my family.
Well, but here's the point. That's what Paul was saying. If you're going to observe a day to the Lord, then observe it to the Lord.
Right.
And I have no right to judge you if you observe it to the Lord and I don't. Paul
Yeah.
says if you're not going to observe it, then to the Lord, don't observe it. You know, either way, it's to glorify Christ. Me and my family, we observe Christmas as a time to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ and God's
Right.
gift to man.
Right.
So exciting.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think, to be fair, I think what people are reacting against is the commercialization
Right.
of Christmas and
Right.
of the secularizing of Christmas.
Yes.
And
The Satan clausing of Christmas.
good
Oh,
word.
Santa clausing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get those
so
confused
I
sometimes.
think we need to militate against those things. We need to
Yes.
do some things to make sure there's a distinction in why we celebrate Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
But taking some of the pagan Christian practices and bringing them into the light, I mean, it's a wonderful way to take all the lights on your Christmas tree and to use the significance of those lights and to use the symbolism of the tree and the growing. There's so many ways you can redeem even what others are using improperly. Right?
Yeah.
I don't have to be a Scrooge.
Right.
I can enjoy it. But I like what you said. If those choose not to, no judgment.
Right.
And
I
here's
just feel
what I
sorry for
find.
him.
The Bible says that all those things, like the feasts of the Jews, all that, it was a shadow of Christ, but he was
Yeah.
the
Amen.
substance. And
Yeah.
not to say that Christmas is a shadow of Christ, the holiday,
Mm.
because it's obviously not a Jewish feast, but saying that I have found that Christ is the true substance, source of life, joy, all
Right.
those things. And when my heart is centered on him,
Yep.
the good blessings he brings into my life are actually more enjoyable. And I would say that about
Absolutely.
Christmas.
I
When
would-
I
I would
center
agree.
it on Jesus Christ, Christmas is one of the most enjoyable holidays of the year. It's why my wife and I
Right.
still get up
Yeah.
early Christmas morning, even though we're in Ashland, drive all the way
Yeah.
home to be with my family to celebrate the birth of Jesus, because
Yeah.
it is a time of great joy and celebration in our family.
For a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's not. I mean, I'll be honest. In my
That's
ministry,
true.
I've met dozens, and and have some in my own family whose history of Christmas is negative.
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of depression, a lot
Brokenness.
of sadness, a lot of people overspending,
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
poor choices at Christmas,
Yeah.
feeling obligated to get and buy and serve and do things they don't want to do, be with people they don't like to be with.
Right.
So it's a lot of negativity associated with it too, which I guess, though, if you wanted to spin this a little bit, you could say that's exactly what we're talking about, of bringing light into what can be a dark period of time.
Right.
If Christmas is a sad moment for you, and it is for some people.
Right.
For us last year, celebrating Christmas was very difficult. Our
Yeah.
first Christmas without Micah,
Yeah.
very difficult. So what we did, intentionally, we brought in some joyful things,
Yeah.
things that we knew we liked and places we knew we liked to go.
Yeah.
To kind of bring some hope into the midst of that. We didn't minimize the negative or the sad because it was real.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we didn't like camp in the sadness. And maybe people
Yeah.
could take our podcast today and say, is there a way I can find some way in my sadness and my darkness to weave a little bit of light and a little bit of hope and a little bit of promise and waiting? I don't know, maybe for some.
And just so you guys know, I think there is a podcast coming. We've talked about it on sorrow, and I think it's going to be a good one. We were talking about yesterday doing it.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to sorrow. I was just talking to a friend today about that. It's okay to sorrow. It's okay to grieve. In fact, when Paul would even, I would say, suggest that, but he wrote to the Thessalonians while they were sorrowing the loss of loved ones. And sorrow comes on many levels, the loss of loved ones, the loss of loved things. Paul said, do not sorrow as those who have no hope.
Right.
And I think that's the key, is it's okay to sorrow, but we sorrow differently because
we do.
our sorrow brings us back to hope. So we'll do a whole podcast on sorrow, and
That'd
I think
be
it's
fun.
think it's going to be really good and healthy, because I think people don't allow themselves to grieve, and holidays can be very hard. And you need to, if there's sorrow in your heart, you need to make space to be able to sorrow before the Lord.
Right.
But allow the Lord to comfort you and bring you to hope.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we'll save this for maybe later, but there's a danger in ungrieved losses.
I think
so.
If you don't
Yes.
grieve and you don't allow yourself to feel and you don't go to the places that you need healing in your heart, man, it's just going to cause problems later.
Well, and it takes a bit of the authenticity out of your soul and smile. It really does.
Yeah, it's all
true.
plastic then. It's all fake.
It's true.
So this
Yeah.
has been fun.
Yeah.
This is good. So, Christmas, celebrating it. Advent,
Can I say one thing?
no. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
thank you for shouldering your way in or elbowing in. Yeah.
I like what you said about how last year you did things differently.
Yeah.
And
Intentionally differently.
I think that's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
Because if someone doesn't like Christmas, I think it's important to ask why. Or if they're dreading Christmas, ask why.
Good.
And what does the gospel say to your why? Right? So for you
good question.
guys, it said, let's put in these other things
Yeah.
that are going to bring joy in the midst of something that's
Yeah.
painful.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of alcoholism and financial
my
things
gosh,
and
yeah.
abuse that happens on the holidays.
It really does.
And
And
we're talking
so-
about bringing in good things, not bad things that
Yeah.
produce joy.
Right.
But if that's something in someone's background or that they're living with, how can they, in a sense, redeem that? How can they make something different? And I do love the Christmas dinner that our church normally does. I know it's going to be different this year.
It's going to be different.
But what a
still, we're gonna do it,
beautiful, and what a beautiful opportunity for people to get out and serve and do something that isn't just the normal traditional Christmas things.
Yeah.
If those things bring them pain.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a place and a way they can serve or do something for someone else that can redeem the day and also I guess, be a balm of healing to their own wounds.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm glad you said that.
And I don't know if it's the Lord or not, but I agree right with you, Heather, and just say, maybe if there's a lot of sorrow and the holidays have been a time of a lot of sorrow for you, maybe you just need to turn a new leaf, turn a new page, and do something new this year. I think part of the heaviness to holidays is for a lot of people, there's a lot of obligation.
Expectation.
Expectation
Yes.
from family,
Yeah.
from
Oh my
self,
gosh,
from
yes.
friends.
Yep.
And when it's an unhealthy expectation, it really just ruins it. And that's why people
Yeah.
dread it. I've been with people who dread holidays because of the obligations and expectations
Yep.
of families and things
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would just say, maybe turn a page, maybe be the rebel this year and do something else.
Right.
And it's going to be hard. You might be like, I could never do that. Honestly, you probably can. And just say, you know what? This year, I'm not going to go with the obligations. I'm not going to go with
Right.
the expectations. I'm not going to put myself in that place. I'm going to go do this instead and start something new. Start something freeing.
Yeah. And if you have somebody in your family that's toxic, I mean, we thinking back to, decades ago, we had a family member that nobody wanted to be around. But we always felt like we had to be around.
Yeah.
And so if you sometimes you limit that and say, okay, we feel like we're going to choose to be around, but only for a limited period of time.
Yeah.
Here's how we're going to do that. Here's how
Yeah.
we're going to set in motion.
Sandwich the issue.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have some good things. We're going to do what we need to do in order that we don't, perpetuate family problems and dynamics. But we're not going to just sit in it and soak it and let that person destroy the whole
That's so good. You got to
baked.
Oreo cookie it. You got to put
Yeah.
something good on this side, deal with what's in the middle, and then put something great on the back
Did you
end.
say Oreo cookie?
Yeah, I mean, but usually it's the other way around. Usually
Yeah.
the Oreo cookie's the good part, but this time it's like reversed Oreo cookie. The crust is in the middle. You're gonna put cream on both sides of it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's wisdom, Mark. No, I really think.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I think so,
maybe
too.
you're dreading holidays. Maybe it's a family issue. And I would say that is a solid wisdom for you.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do to perpetuate family peace, but don't make that all of it.
Right.
Put good things in on both sides of it that you can look forward to as a family.
And it doesn't mean you're unloving. It just means you're setting boundaries.
Healthy boundaries.
Healthy boundaries
Yeah.
to say I'm gonna choose to go this far and endure this much, but not allow this person to in charge of my happy button. They don't belong there.
Yeah.
Right.
So it helps. It really does. But you have to think that stuff out in advance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get sucked into somebody else's cyclone.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Oh, what is that quote? They said, if you don't plan your life, somebody else will.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's a good quote.
It's true.
I think
Yeah,
it's. I
it
think
really
it's
is.
heard it from John Maxwell, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
if it's his quote. I think you might have taken it from someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Heather, this was your podcast at Pick Advent. Douse us with your Advent knowledge, your wisdom. Some closing thoughts.
Let's see. I think that as we head into Christmas and Advent this year, we can acknowledge that things are different. We can
Very much so.
Very different. We can acknowledge that may feel disappointing, but I think the key to this year is to realize that what can we focus on that can give us hope?
Yeah.
And where can we implement some changes that are going to move us closer to Jesus and to help us be healthier inside? So those are my final thoughts.
Yeah,
I love it.
that's good.
Yeah.
I love it.
I want to read this prayer from Renee Swope. The manger of my heart. It's from Proverbs 31 Ministries, and I stole it from one of the articles Heather sent, so I'm really not that smart. I just took it from the work we had. This is what it says. This Advent, Lord, it's an Advent prayer. This Advent, Lord, come to the manger of my heart. Fill me with your presence from the very start. As I prepare for the holidays and gifts to be given, remind me of the gift you gave when you sent your Son from heaven. The first Christmas gift, it was the greatest gift ever. You came as a baby, born in a manger. Wrapped like the gifts I find under my tree, waiting to be opened to reveal your love to me. Restore to me the wonder that came with Jesus' birth, when he left the riches of heaven and wrapped himself in rags of earth. Emmanuel, God with us, your presence came that night, and angels announced into your darkness, God brings his light. Do not be afraid, they said to shepherds in the field. Speak to my heart today, Lord, and help me to yield. Make me like those shepherd boys, obedient to your call. Setting distractions and worries aside, to you I surrender them all. Surround me with your presence, Lord. I long to hear your voice. Clear my mind of countless concerns and all the holiday noise. Slow me down this Christmas. Let me not be in a rush. In the midst of parties and planning, I want to feel your hush. This Christmas, Jesus, come to the manger of my heart. Invade my soul like Bethlehem, bringing peace to every part. Dwell within and around me as I unwrap your presence each day. Keep me close to you, Lord. It's in your wonderful name, I pray.
That's good.
It makes you want to cry. It's such a
Yeah.
powerful
Yeah.
prayer. And you can find that on Christianity.com. Look up their Advent article, Renee Swope, the manger of my heart. I'm going to keep
good.
reading that this Christmas season.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful
Yeah.
prayer.
It really is.
That's
Good.
really good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, thanks, guys, for hanging in there with us today, talking about Advent. Such an exciting thing. I'm looking forward to more Christmas podcasts.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great. If we've offended you at all about our views of Christmas or Santa, things like that, I think it's just a really great word to end on. To remember, whatever your view is on these things, do it as unto the Lord.
Yeah.
And if you can do it as unto worship to the Lord, whether to celebrate or not to celebrate, I think you are in a good spot. And if you choose to celebrate Advent or not, do that as unto the Lord as well. I do know this. I'm going to throw in a few little plugs here. I do know that we have devotions that are coming out every day leading up to Christmas on our Facebook account.
That's awesome.
Being written by Jill Yoder, and they are beautiful. I read the first one. So good. So be looking forward to that. And she's adding on family discussions and scriptures. So if you're like,
that's
I don't know where I find
wow.
you could just get on our Facebook page every day, you and your family, 25 days leading up to Christmas, and you could read that together and discuss it. And I think it's going to be really great.
That is so awesome.
It's
what
so
a great
awesome.
team
Yeah, we have such a great team. Love it. A lot of great people. All right, God bless you guys. We'll catch you again on the podcast.
We hope this topic inspired you in your adventure with the Lord. Stay tuned each week for a new podcast. And if you want to support us, not only can you subscribe to our podcast, but you can also spread the word with other friends or family. Maybe it would also be a blessing to them. Well, until next time, may the Lord bless you.